What's going on? This is Copy Who. I'm Paul the producer and I am your host. Welcome everybody. Yeah. I'm gonna proceed to try and do this. My mind is kind of all over the place. I've had a couple good days of sleep and I'm not exactly myself. There's some things bothering me that I'm not gonna get into. But I mean, like, I went to a church service this morning and the message was extremely powerful and meaningful to me. I'm not going to get into all of it or anything like that. Just that the pastor was talking about the 10 Commandments and he got in really deep and explicitly about what they mean, who's broken them, which is almost everyone, and why, and how. And it just was really meaningful for me. And sometimes it makes me think a lot about what I'm doing here when I act like a complete jackass and I go overboard and I attack people. And so I still have to try to be true to myself, and sometimes I can't always go along with what our holy dictates when I mean, like, I just think there's always more to the story. You can't just judge something without giving it deep critical thought, and discernment is a lot of what it boils down to. And so, whatever, if you don't want to listen, as I always say, I'm not here for the people who have a short attention span, so I'll just wait for you to click off. Okay, I think that was enough time to get rid of the lazy, boring people who don't like to sit and actually think and have a long message. I have several things planned today, actually. It's kind of interesting, some of them. And what I want to do is just fade out here and greet my little owl friends really quickly. How are you guys doing? You all right? Okay. Yeah, I'm here to guide you through this. Yeah, I know I'm strange right now. So you just have to forgive me for that, right? Yeah, forgive me. Because it's all about forgiveness. Ah! Do I deserve that? I think on some level, if everyone is truly repentant, they of course deserve forgiveness. And so I'm going to come over here. What? Look at what I did down there. You see that? That's the new money shot, the upgraded money shot. And I'm not happy entirely because I still have light poking through the windows. That's sunlight up there. I'm not a fan of that, but I love this down here. I'm just like, ooh, yeah, I like the way the red and the blue and that little visual down there goes with the blue flames and the red lights, the red accent lights. I had to get rid of a shadow there. I've had to do all these things to make it right for me, and it's still not right for me, but it's getting better. Okay, but let me just come over here. I have my show notes here, and I'm going to move them over to this big money shot screen, which I like, and I'm going to take you over there once again. And we're going to just begin by talking about how the last show I did, I spoke about this lady, Jacinda Ardern. She was the Prime Minister of New Zealand, and she stepped down. I said some nasty things about her that I meant. I can't really say I'm sorry for the things I said about her. I do think she's villainous, and she's just going along with villainy. And so I was celebrating a little bit by applauding and whatnot. And I think I mentioned at some point how my main concern was, like, who's going to replace her? And so we found out who her replacement is today, and I'm going to talk about that really quick. And it's not lighthearted. What I have to say about it is not a joking matter to me, and so I'm going to open this up really quick and get to him. Let's see, here we go. Going to open this up. Going to get this over here in the middle, and you guys got to just bear with me while I do this. I'm the only producer here. This is a one-man show. Alrighty. This fella's name is Chris Hipkins, okay? And he is the man who is replacing Jacinda, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, and he just says some horrible shit here so I'd like to put his blurry face up here and have everybody listen.
I think early next year we'll be in the phase of chasing up people who haven't come forward to get their vaccination or have missed their bookings and so on. So everyone will be able to get a vaccine between now and the end of the year. But of course, you know, and I want every New Zealander to come forward, but human behaviour suggests that there will be some people that we have to actually really go out and look for, and some of that may spill into next year. But our commitment is everyone will have the opportunity to get the vaccine by the end of the year. everyone will, but I can't say that, that we're not going to have some hesitant people or some people who just haven't come forward that we don't have to go out and find next year.
So I don't want to play that again. To be honest with you, it's hard for me to discuss this and not lose my temper because I've had a really hard time dealing with the lockdowns and also the heinous, horrible, despicable rhetoric against people who decide not to get the you-know-what. And I'm disgusted by this, man. Like, what can I say? I feel a sense of duty to human beings to say, if you don't like this, if you don't want to do this, by all means, I say resist this crazy person. You have to resist because your government, this is where I come into conflict with some of what I was listening to in church today. Like, I can't respect this kind of authority. They're deceptive, and there's some kind of heinous, grievous, what seems like to me, attempts to exterminate a large portion of the human race. And if I get taken off of YouTube and this platform for stating what I observe and what I think is the truth about what's happening in the world, like using psychological warfare to scare people and make people think they're doing something for their own good when you're really getting them to take part in what to me seems like an obvious suicide ritual with the eventual goal of depopulating the earth, it's really hard for me to stomach that. Like, and so I believe people have the right to their sovereign bodies and not to have it imposed upon them, something like a vaccine. So it's technologically possible now. Your rights have shifted, and in the name of protecting others and the well-being of others and the health of others, they get to come and just jab whatever they want into you because they have some unilateral authority to say, yes, this is a danger to everyone. Everyone must take it. And meanwhile, people die and there's profit and it's heinous. So my best advice to the people of New Zealand and other countries where this is happening is don't allow it. If you're going to die anyway and if life is going to be ruined anyway, at least bend over backwards to do the right thing by resisting it, okay? It's mortifying to me. And this video will never take off because I dare have the opinions I have. And I'm unapologetic about my opinions. Unapologetic, like Amala's show coming up. I have a clip from that on a slightly different topic. But I don't like this guy. And I said, okay, so fine, she's going. Does this mean they're going to have someone worse? Yeah. If you have someone who's going to chase people down and violently force people to stick that shit in their bodies, what can I say? I think you have to resist it. There's no humor in it for me. Like, you suck the joy out of life for me. And I have agonized these last 2 years about what I'm seeing going on in Canada and Australia and New Zealand and the UK. It's like heinous. You've all abused your people too much. And that's across all the West and so many other governments, not just in the West, over this pandemic crap. You've just become abusive as hell, and people shouldn't put up with it anymore. There is a movement to just destroy society, and it is very unsettling. Society, the economy. What do you think the zero carbon agenda means? It means, therefore, you must die. And we pretend it's not happening, and we pretend we're doing good things in the meanwhile, and we pretend things are getting better when right in front of your face, if you trust your own eyes, you can see them getting worse and more dangerous for everyone. And I honestly thank God that there's the Second Amendment in the United States, because I think that's at least a wall in between the tyranny, okay? But we're not out of the woods. No one's out of the woods. All summer long, I was just not believing the normalcy, okay? I wasn't like, oh, things are getting back to normal. It was the vision of something more familiar, like the normalcy that we once knew, but it's not normal. We're going down a severe rabbit hole in the history of the world, and so we are living in interesting times. They're not boring, but I would rather live in boring times where I don't feel like there's an assault and a danger toward me and my fellow human beings. I'm not advocating for the murder of anyone. I'm just saying, don't trust these people who want you to take part in a little death ritual. I just don't believe it. It's horrendous. It's a total nightmare to me. I feel like I've been living a nightmare, and I've lost a lot of sleep the last couple of years. And starting to do these recordings for me has been the beginning of some kind of hopeful resurgence in my mind, my attitude. It's like a renaissance in my life, what I'm doing right now. Even though barely anyone is watching, I have some kind of faith that I'm doing something good and that I'm doing something I was meant to do. So I'm going to go back to my money shot right here and do it like this again. I just love it. And see, I am smiling and I'm maintaining some kind of joy in the face of super villainy that I can't stomach. I'll just put Amala away right now for the moment because there's something else I'm going to talk about here, okay? And I'll put this away for the moment because I like seeing the whole Copy Who sign up there. That's groovy. But right now, actually, what I want to talk about is another matter of holiness and unholiness. Check this out. This is the one and only Madonna. Actually, you know what I want to do? I want to look up her real name really quick. Madonna, the pop star. Okay, we're going to look up her real name. Madonna, real name. Madonna Louise Ciccione. Okay, that's who she is. Madonna Louise Ciccione. So she's Madonna. I think it's just Louise Michone, right? Because Madonna is her stage name. Was she born with the name Madonna? What is Madonna's proper name? Madonna Louise Ciccione. Okay. So there's some kind of obvious Italian background heritage there. It's kind of interesting. So back here, I'll come over here. Let me get rid of that really quick. Here she is mocking. So this is just a revolting display to me right here. I want to make sure that I have the camera on correctly. Yeah. So what does this mean? She has little babies, all like baby heads and stuff all over her body. She's trying to be edgy. That's always what she's done. And there's this creepy ass thing up here. What the hell is that on that person's face? I mean, what is this aside from somebody who has very much fallen out of relevance, trying to do something sensational again? It smacks of desperation to me. And so it's like you've gone through your whole life. I like to think that people are redeemable, like that somehow, you know, that goes back to my going to church this morning, that we're supposed to be redeemable if we're genuinely aware of what sin is and if we're sorry for it and we try to live the better life, the holy life. We're supposed to be redeemable. That's the story, okay? And I'm just thinking about Madonna and I'm like, redeemable, okay? So she's redeemable. I guess there are things in life that could be worse. Let me go to the other picture here. Where do we have the other picture? Do I not have the other picture? What's going on here, dude? Okay, stop messing around with me. Okay, so this is a mockery of Christianity and Christ and all these women and what's the symbology here? You're just like a desperate woman trying to get attention, and it's troubling to me. I want to believe you're a redeemable person, but this is heinous to me. And what it makes me think about is when I was 12 years old. When I was 12 years old, we went away to something called outdoor education. And it was a very fun week. We went up to the mountains, a little camp. It was like summer camp in the winter, and all the kids in the 6th grade went. And, of course, boys and girls were separated into their own little dormitory type things up in the mountains. And they had a little chapel in this area. We stayed over here in the mountains in Colorado. And one day when we were there, this other little 12-year-old kid went up on the chapel altar and said, "Jesus Christ, F yourself." And what did I write down? What he said? Where did I write down that? Like, he said, "Jesus Christ, F yourself," was what he said. F Jesus Christ, F yourself. And that upset me pretty dramatically at 12 years old because I hadn't gone into my atheist phase that I went into as a late teen. I became an atheist. And before I made a whole big revolving circle all the way around to becoming a believer again. And I was so upset at that kid that the adults literally had to like separate me because I wanted to beat him up. And I feel a similar sort of indignance toward people for the things they say. Even like, you know, I'm not a fan of the Pope right now, but when people Like one time Bill Maher said, F Pope Frank. And I was just it's kind of like, it grates on me wrong, even though I'm not a fan of the Pope. I actually think the Pope is corrupt. I still don't speak about him in those kinds of stark terms. Because I don't know. The story is that Jesus Christ started the Christian church, and it began with the Vatican, and it began with Catholicism. That's the story, supposedly, okay? And I'm not going to get into a bunch of boring shit about Catholicism and whatnot, and every institution has its flaws and its corruption built in inherent because it's run by human beings, and you can't get away from that sin no matter how much you sanctify it with the surroundings, the pomp and circumstance of what you dress, what you wear, dress in, what you wear, what you build in terms of like the Vatican. And it's the most extraordinary place in the world. And I've been there and I've seen the ornate, massive, awesome Vatican on the inside. And I'm sure there are many amazing places like this in the world. In fact, since I'm talking about it, why don't we just go over here and look at some pictures of the Vatican? I behave like a jackass. I do indeed. And I'm not sorry about it. Well, it depends, actually. It depends if I shouldn't have been a jackass or not. So, the Vatican, Rome. We're going to look at some pictures of the Vatican. This was what was built to honor God. God knows over how long they did this. It's an extraordinary place. Here's like an aerial view of it. And it really is extraordinary. If you've ever seen it in person, you'd be amazed and in awe at how big it is. But it is made by people in the middle of Rome. It's a sovereign territory, believe it or not. And I find that interesting. I've been up here. I believe where this picture was taken from. I've been up there because I went with my cousins and my sister once on the top of the Vatican. We went up all these tight, narrow stairs, and it was a very long hike. And eventually you get there, and of course, this is Rome surrounding the Vatican. And it's as beautiful on the inside as it is on the outside, the ornate nature of it. So here it is from St. Peter's Square in front of it there. And it's extraordinary. And this is actually outside of the square, and you're on the street in Rome. You have not entered the sovereign city. And presumably the Pope is a sovereign. He has sovereign control over the church, and he can just say whatever goes. It's a sovereign city, meaning it's not Italy inside of the Vatican. It is the Vatican. It's a separate city-state. I find that interesting. And so what do you call it? I digressed from Madonna and started talking about that. But it is fascinating to me, and I'm pained when I see such a desperate display. It's not that I've never done anything to get attention, but this is like you're at the end of your life, in my opinion, because you're over your days of glory, and so it's like, what can you do to be a rabble rouser in the time you have left? This smacks of desperation, and so I hope somehow there's some mercy for your soul. You are a screwed up woman, and I'm sorry to say that. I'm not saying I'm not sinful. I'm not saying I'm not screwed up. I certainly am. But I cringe at other people. I'm trying, at least. Madonna's not trying. Madonna Louise Ciccione. Whatever. Oh, man. You are a troubling human being to me, Madonna. But I want to move on to what I have planned next, okay? Let me just move this over here at my screen. And I will come back to... what? Don't I have this? Okay, I will just click on this and another one will open. So I will go up to about 7 minutes on this. This is Amala, and she's discussing a controversy between Daily Wire and Steven Crowder. And I am going to show you this screen, and we're going to play this. And she's a pretty lady, very smart young woman. I wish a lot of women could be as wise as this young woman here. She's not perfect, and I don't always agree with her. In fact, I don't entirely agree with her right now. I think she's a little naive in this clip right here.
It's going to be the end of it.
But you're entitled to your opinion, and like, I have great respect for you, and I hope that if you heard this, you wouldn't take offense to that, because my intent is not to offend you. You're 10 times, you're a million times the woman Madonna is. How do you like that praise?
Email.
You're better than Madonna, Amala. You're better than Madonna. I would never call you the nasty things I've called Madonna, because I like you, I respect you. And at the same time I'm saying that, I'm looking at the money shot under here with that new backdrop, and I'm like, oh, that's kick ass, mother effer. That's awesome. Okay, somehow I'm keeping the levity in this show, even though I'm talking about a bunch of dark shit. New Zealanders don't put up with that fucker. I'm serious. Fuck him. Fuck him, fuck him, fuck him, fuck him.
Over the proposal, and that is...
I'm still preoccupied with that. This is lighthearted compared to the fucker who's in charge of New Zealand now. Fuck you. And forgive me, God, for saying that, but come on, we know what he's doing. And God recognizes that I know what he's doing, and that we're living through a Holocaust, and it's really bugging me. And it's like preoccupying my mind so much right now that I'm having trouble paying attention to this beautiful woman. My focus is off, but now, I promise, I vow to you, I will give my full attention to Amala. Right here, talking about Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire.
Now, again, I commend him for being transparent. And when you look into this and you find out that it is actually a $50 million contract, in my opinion, a lot of the asks written in that contract, as far as showing up and having your shows recorded in a timely manner and having the number of shows that you're supposed to have per calendar year, that makes sense to me.
Perfectly
losing ad sponsorships, which means Daily Wire is losing money. You should expect that to affect your income as well, because...
Here's where we depart on what we're thinking. So if you're hiring Steven Crowder and your Daily Wire, it's because you guys have some kind of understanding about common values. And if you're coming to work, it's like you're supposed to be a team. You're supposed to stand by that person on your team. You wouldn't hire him for $50 million unless you thought you had those common values. And so what you're doing by threatening to fine him and sanction him by taking away the money if you lose sponsorship is saying, we're not going to stand by you if the public disagrees somehow and we lose sponsorship. So what if, why wouldn't Daily Wire stand with their people? You can say, I disagree with Steven Crowder, but we're going to stand with him. And I still think, how bad could it be what he says? So there is some truth to this, that Daily Wire is capitulating to an environment where there is heinous cancel culture. And you know, that's what happens when you build a big organization and you have all these piles of money flowing in. Suddenly you start compromising your values to stay in business, to keep growing. And of course you want to be somewhat sensible and wise about it. You don't want to shoot yourself in the foot unnecessarily, but you're saying we don't know what the future holds. And if somebody like Steven Crowder says something undesirable on our network, then we are going to sanction him for it. We're going to make him pay for it, which maybe that's not necessarily fair, especially in a changing political environment. What if later on you come around to agree with something Steven said in a hypothetical situation that caused you to lose sponsorship, then you come around to agreeing with his point of view, but you still make him pay for it when he might have been on the course, on the line to what was the more truthful discourse. You should take the loss. You should dare people to stop their sponsorship in order to bring more light to the truth. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like if what Steven Crowder says in the future that causes you to lose sponsorship, if it's true and it's something worth standing behind, why would you want to have it in a contract for an unknown? Like you're having him work for you because you have values in common. I don't see why you want to destroy someone's income preemptively when we don't even know the subject matter here. Is that what Jabbed Shapiro wants to do? I'm just saying, because there's an example of a topic right there. The jabby jabbo over time. The whole politics have shifted from the very beginning of it to now. Does Ben have a different attitude about the jab now than he did when it first started happening? So it's an example of how quickly the tide changes. Will there be reparations written into the contract for Steven Crowder if later the network, Daily, what do you call it? Daily, How do I forget this? I was just saying it 2 seconds ago. Daily whatchamacallit. The daily. I can't believe I forgot it because I've almost subscribed to that network. It's not the Daily Word. Whatever. Let's just keep going and watch. Let's just keep going.
Are they going to pay you the $50 million that they've proposed in this contract?
There's just some naivety in this young woman, even though she's tremendously wise and admirable for her age. I do feel like I have to give you a lot of praise because I agree with you with most of what you say, but I am who I am, and I'm not going, I'm not going to just kiss your butt because you are who you are. I have great admiration for you. I've watched you a ton when I'm working out, and I miss Will, and I like Taylor too.
And that doesn't mean that they're beholden to big tech. It just simply means that that's the structure of their for-profit business.
You might be right about that because they're trying to do damage control before something happens, it might mean that they're just wise about it. And they're not necessarily beholden to big tech, but you have to be somewhat beholden to big tech if you're going to run a big the Daily Wire is what it's called. If you're going to run a huge media company, if you're going to run a huge church, if you're going to run a huge business, you're going to have to play volleyball politically somehow and keep the ball up.
I think that the ads that are placed on Daily Wire's podcast, you know, when Ben Shapiro hops on and says you should buy a Casper mattress, those companies, for the most part,
what's so funny,
are in line with Daily Wire's views. So it would be very unexpected to lose 50% of your ad sponsors.
Hey, I doubt it.
But they want to account for that happening just in case it does. These are things that you have to do
just in case
as a business.
So, but we don't know the political landscape. And what if Steven Crowder says something that is imminently justified, but then there's this contractual thing where it causes damage? Do they just get to arbitrarily take money away from him then? So I think there's validity to Steven Crowder's concerns. Everyone in this, I'm on YouTube right now, and I somewhat have to be beholden to their standards in order to do this. Otherwise, they don't even have to give me a reason why. They can cut me off of here. I've already said things today. If this video got 20 million views, I think they'd shut it down. And it's because, oh, it's catching traction. So I don't think they'll shut it down today because nobody's freaking watching. But if suddenly 20 million people tune into it and watch it before 20 million, I bet you they'll cut it off because someone out of that 20 million is going to be offended by something I said today. Why shouldn't we be able to speak our minds without that fear of retribution? And so he doesn't want to have a contract where he agrees that there will be retribution if he says something he believes in. So I'm somewhat on Steven Crowder's side with this. And Ben Shapiro's a mighty intellect. But I mean, like, that's why I called him Jabbed Shapiro earlier, because it's like, how can you be as smart as you are and you went ahead and did that? I don't get that. And that's one of those things I say where it's like, that's where the government is coming in like, misinformation. Get this guy. He's stopping someone from taking the suicide pact. It does boil down to that. Excuse me, it absolutely does. When we're getting down to the most serious topics at stake here. Can't even be ourselves.
Now,
can't even speak honestly about all kinds of things. I'm not going to get temperamental right now, but I'm in a funky mood about it.
Really goes over my general thoughts on the proposal set forth. I think the
I'm all
response
warmed
to
up
this
now. My head is jiving pretty well with this right now. I feel like I'm in the zone.
Was really overblown, and I think a lot of this could have been minimized had the two entities just had a conversation. Jeremy did express that he did try to talk to Steven about this and go back and forth on a phone call, and that simply did not happen. And I think that was a very unfortunate missed opportunity here, because this did not need to be aired out in the public space. This is something that these two guys who are very long-time friends.
I'm really miserable to be making this video. Steven's been my friend for 10 years. I think he's maybe the most talented person working in the conservative media space.
Could have had a conversation about and worked out. And even
now, I'll agree with what she's saying here. if this wasn't like a deliberate stunt and these people are truly friends, then they should have spoken to one another about it. There should have been a negotiation going back and forth about the terms of the contract. Maybe it could have been dialed in. Or was it a stunt? $50 million is no laughing matter. Maybe you want to discuss the terms of this. I haven't read the contract personally. None of us have, but reading the terms would be good. And I digress, but Amala is a stunning woman, and I've always, like, ever since I came to know this broadcaster woman here, she has an awesome fashion sense. I am digressing, and let's just continue a little bit here, shall we?
Stephen going his separate way, that would have been fine. They could continue to work together, continue to have projects together, but one in a company space and one in an independent space. And a note that I really want to talk about that was really present in...
And again, when you're independent, there's still that latitude, but there's not the meteoric, enormous financial reward for jumping on board with a place like Daily Wire. And what I was going to say is, but when you get big, there's always a compromise that someone has to make. Even in a music group, even in a heavy metal group, you have to be like, I have to be careful what I say because it's controversial. It gets old, actually. Some people we should just be able to live with the fact that others have different beliefs, but we're in an environment where people literally want to destroy you and eliminate you for differing on stuff.
Steven's video is him talking about discouraging young creators from coming into the space and signing contracts like this. I think at one moment he held up the contract and said, if you're a young creator who wants to do this and wants to do what I do not sign contracts like this. Do not.
I think it's totally valid to point out what he's pointing out. Think about what you're signing. Is it fair that in the future you might say something you believe in and then they're putting the finger on you like, you need to apologize, Buster. You apologize or else you're fired or else you're going to lose money. You want to like agree ahead of time in these turbulent political times where the flavor of the week is the new controversy that you're not allowed to articulate or else. Why shouldn't he give young people that wisdom? And here, Amala, interesting thing pointing out about you. You're a rising star. Don't think I haven't noticed that you are a super rising star and that you, I think you have millions in your future. I don't know what maybe you're earning a good salary for PragerU right now, but I'll bet you big networks have their eye on you, and I will not be surprised when you sign a multi-million-dollar deal. And so how much of yourself are you going to compromise? How much of yourself are you going to give up? You're going to give up X% of your income because you said something you believed in, but then they're going to make you apologize probably. They're going to be like, oh, go back. We lost these sponsors. Go back. Say you're sorry. Spin it. Which isn't an honest way to live anyway. And I gather in so many ways you're a very honest and realistic person. So would you make those compromises? Because you see like Steven Crowder's amazing, because if I saw 50 million, I'd be like, oh my God, 50 million. $50 million? Oh shit. But like, if you're worth 50 million, it's also worth sitting down and trying to negotiate the terms of the contract.
I
love my money shot down here. I love that new thing I did down there. I wasn't sure last night. I was like, fuck, should I have done this? And you know what it does? It has opened up the space here so that I can put this TV on a mechanical riser eventually. And then I'll be like, I'll have a remote and it'll be lifting up when I start the money shot. It'll be like, dun, 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 dun. And I'll be like, up. Hey, what do you think of that, copy? You're the allegory right there. You know that? Because when I'm saying about when I'm talking, I'm digressing big time from Amala. I'm like digressing and I'm talking to you now. It's because of the metaphor that you are, Copy and Jules, who I was inspired to do that, and you know, by the podcasting world's version of evil Conan O'Brien. Okay, because Conan was the first one to make a TV rise like that, and I remember that when there was a tube TV, and it would make like a hydraulic sound. It would be like, and it would come up like that. But can't wait to do that, by the way. They're $300, but I don't know how to mount the thing to the floor because they have these small bases. And it's like, do I have to screw it down to the floor and make the spot where this TV is stationary? Because I don't know if I want to do that, but I know that I want to have the rise. And I even have several songs picked out. Oh, God, am I digressing this? I'm going to actually wrap this up, but I think I've talked about that enough. I like you, Amala, and if you were ever to hear anything I said about you, it's not to offend you at all, but you are very young. And don't underestimate how much you can change in life. You yourself said you used to be a diehard liberal and somehow you switched over to this other side of conservatism on the right. And I'm proud of you because you've come to the light, in my opinion. You've really shown your great prowess, intellect. And I think you resonate with people because you are a real person. And so I thank you for that, honestly. What's up next here? What do we have up next? Okay, these are very short clips that I will do some brief commentary on. One is of Pearl from YouTube. And the man. What is it? It's just Pearly Things. Okay, so I think she's right here. Pearl is making a, what do you call it? A generalization about something, and I'm going to hold her feet to the fire on this. So here we go.
And the men are like, you know what, I want to wait longer and longer to marry you because I want to offset the risk of marriage. And so that's why the men and the women will say things like, oh, if he loved you, he'd marry you. And sometimes the men will play into this because the men will say, oh, well, real like men that want to get married in 6 months or less. That could be true. That's just not what I've noticed. Because again, most of the guys that I know that are getting married loved their girlfriends and wanted to get married. They just wanted to do it on their time.
I think that's just a gross generalization, and it doesn't take into consideration what an unconscionable contract marriage is for men these days, especially between the government, the man, and the woman getting married. It's just a lot of silly, foolish young boys have over-idealized romantic views, and they have old world views of chivalry and whatnot. Sound a lot like Rollo right now, but I happen to agree with a lot of what he says. And you should wait to get married, guys. You should read Rollo's books. Forget what I'm saying. Go read The Rational Male. Read all 5 books, okay? I'm on about page 260 of the 4th book, and it's been very enlightening and eye-opening for me. And so, like, marriage is the most serious fucking decision you will make in your life. It can have long-lasting negative consequences if you make a poor choice on your finances, on your personal liberty in just so many ways. And so, by God, take it seriously. Pay attention to those red flags. Read Rollo's book, okay? Have a total wide spectrum view of what you're getting into if you get married. So, like, these are just simple, superficial words I'm hearing from Pearl on here, and I'm not that impressed by that statement by her. I still like her. Still seems like she has a sweet disposition, even though Rollo has called her an idiot. I think that was a little harsh. But I don't agree with you, Pearl. I like you. If you wanted to hang out, we can hang out. But I'm not going to agree with everything you say, just like everyone else. I'm going to say what the hell F I want. Get that through your heads, okay? So this last clip here is an interesting clip from Rollo. It's brief, and let me turn.
And the reason why they always get naked is because women, on a fundamental psychological, some level of consciousness, they understand that sexuality is their only agency. If you want a person,
oh yeah, dude. So I agree that a lot of women exploit their sexuality as their agency, like you're saying. And what I want to say about it actually is that there are a lot of great women out there who don't and never would because they have the self-respect not to do that. But it is obvious that that is very much what is exploited by a lot of women in today's day and age.
If women want attention, if they want people to pay attention to them and listen to what they have to say, they will shuck all their clothes off and run around naked.
A lot of women do, but not all women. It sounds like a generalization when you say this. But it's, God almighty, it's true that a lot of women do this. I'm not disputing that. And I think it's funny when you say they always take their clothes off. That's how you respond every time you see a woman taking their clothes off. And I have said on here before, and I mean it. I mean this. I'm unapologetic about this. Unapologetic. To be a whore is not to be empowered. Just because you have the freedom to do something doesn't automatically, therefore, make whatever it is you're choosing to do virtuous.
Riot like they did in 2020 in Portland.
Look what Madonna did. She didn't get naked. She's like dressing up, mocking Christ. It would be old news for her to get naked. She's already been there, done that.
Some white knight.
Madonna used to get naked. Now look what she's doing. She's full on mocking the Christian religion. So I don't hear you saying that. You don't say, they always mock Christianity. They don't do that. They do get naked much more than they mock Christianity. But Madonna's been through all that. Madonna takes her clothes off now. Everyone's going to be like, I've seen that. Who cares? Taking your clothes off? Big deal. And and so instead she's mocking Christianity. And they all don't get naked, but a hell of a lot of them do. That's how I have to agree with part of what he's saying.
Ending her honor, right? While she's just gallivanting around like Lady Godiva in the middle of some Portland, Oregon, Antifa riot. Why is that the default? Why is that? Oh, we want to be able.
And the respectable women won't be in that context doing that in the first place. The respectable ones, the vast minority, totally minority of women. Oops.
Take our clothes off whenever. The reason is because that is women's only agency. If women want to be heard, they take their clothes off. For some women, not all women, for some women, that's the only power they know. Believe me, because they also have the agency of victimhood. Like, if someone yells at them, they'll be like, I'm abused, I'm a victim, someone help me, hashtag me too. That's the default. They always get naked.
They always get naked. Well said, Rollo. Okay, dude. That's pretty much all I had planned for today, and I'm at 42 minutes now, which is about it. I had thought about doing more AI, but here's the thing. If I go back to doing more talking to AI on here, I'm going to like set an alarm on my phone and I'm going to limit the time because I can get carried away. And as soon as the alarm goes off, I'll be like, goodbye AI. But yes, I have this idea for a segment that is like scatological talk with artificial intelligence, because I was having a great interaction with it the other day when I was like, hey, if a dude who's a groom at a wedding decides instead of throwing rice on people, he wants to take dried fecal matter and throw it on people, and then he wants to actually get it wet and throw it on people, the people have the right to like punch him in the face for doing that. And the AI is like, no, 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 there's never a justification for violence. But I do think there's a close to justification for violence if someone is like throwing fecal matter all over you. Think about it. That's going way overboard. Throwing fecal matter on people, that's assault. And I even said, I joked with the AI, I was like, dude, AI, suppose that a man really did this. He did. There was a man who threw fecal matter on his wedding attendees. The father-in-law of the bride was very upset. Like, how could you do this? This is a special marriage. It's a special day. Why would you throw fecal matter on people? He was angry. I said, Mr. AI, should the father-in-law do that to defend the honor of his daughter that her would-be groom-to-be in a few minutes is throwing fecal matter on the attendees of the wedding? And the AI is just like, nope, it's always wrong. Even I said, what if the police come and he tries to throw poop on the police? And this thing's like, nope, it's never justified. Police using violence. Violence is never justified. It's always defaulting toward that, even though we're under heinous attack in our lives. And this is the craziest time period ever. And my gosh, holy cow, I'm getting carried away. And I'm not going to talk to the AI right now, but I will say I'm reaching the end of this recording right now. I'm going to wrap this up right now. What I want to say to you people is I appreciate those who are watching, and if you enjoy this, I appreciate you sharing with your friends. I appreciate you sharing the video somewhere. I have another channel, CopyWho Clips is the handle, @CopyWho Clips. You can find shorter clips of the show there if you want to try and get your friends addicted to it. I appreciate you subscribing, liking, and commenting. Let me know what you think. I will respond because I don't have anybody talking to me right now. I might as well engage. I'm willing to engage with people, okay? That's what I want to do. I'm in a pretty good mood now. I've slept well for 2 days, but I had many days last week when it was a pain in the butt. But anyway, I do want to say it. I mean it when I say it. Peace be with you all, okay? I am the furious freak of copy who. I copy you know who. And I'm not really copying you because I'm vastly different. So what? I have a TV here and I rise it up. I want to rise it up like you. So what? I'm beginning to love the money shot that I make out of my house. That's just awesome, dude. Going on and on. 45 minutes, 38 seconds. It's time to wrap this up. Peace to you all.